So I have a little bit of a fun story to share with you guys. About a month ago, I was headed out to the deer stand, trying to sneak out there, and of course, trying to do that as quietly as possible. In the process of heading out there, I was walking pretty much straight out back here and getting close to the wood piles. And if you've seen our wood piles, we got sort of an L shape. We got a wall going one way and another way, and there's a little opening where I can easily pull the truck through. When working around the piles, just makes it a little bit easier to maneuver around. So in the process of getting pretty close to the wood piles, I noticed this black bird on the ground, and it noticed me. It wasn't very happy I was there, and it took off running. It was a little scared and trying to sneak out to the deer stand, trying to be as quiet as possible. I didn't want to jump this bird and make some ruckus and draw some more attention to myself. So I decided I was going to go the other way. I was just going to continue to head out back, but just go around the other end of the wood pile. Well, just as I get to the back end of that wood pile, I look over and here's a bird charging at me at full speed. It hadn't noticed I was there. Stops about 5 feet from me, realizes I'm there, and then stares at me for a minute and then just takes off going back the other way. It was really a pretty fun and neat experience to be so close to this thing, get a close look at it. But afterwards, crawling into the deer stand, I got thinking a little bit. I'm like, what kind of bird was that? So later that night when I got out of the stand, I jumped on the Minnesota DNR website, and they have a big list of all the animals, birds, and all that stuff. It's really a great resource sometimes trying to figure out if there's something you hadn't seen before, narrowing it down. Well, in that process, I could not figure out what this thing was. All black. It had the same body shape as a pheasant. The way it moved was like a pheasant. The long tail. It just screamed pheasant, but it was black, and I had never seen a black pheasant before. So I had narrowed what this thing was down. About a week goes by, and I'm talking to a friend about how the deer season went and everything, and I had made mention of my experience of running into this black bird. I was like, every year I see a pheasant when I'm sitting in the stand, and this year I didn't see one, but I had this experience of seeing this black-looking pheasant thing on my way out to the stand. I was like, maybe that was my pheasant for the year. So he quickly jumps on the internet and starts Googling it, and there's a variety of pheasant called Melanistic Mutant Pheasants. They're generally black. There's a little hard to distinguish the difference between a rooster and a hen. There's definitely a little bit of color on the rooster, but it's not like your standard, ring-neck pheasant that you see in all the images or when you go out and hunt for pheasants. It got me wondering a couple questions. I was like, okay, well, it is a pheasant. If I was out there pheasant hunting, could I have legally taken that pheasant? So I sent a message off to the DNR, and they responded back and said yes. I supplied pictures and everything, and they said if that was a rooster, you'd be able to take that. So I got diving into these birds a little bit more, and it was a pretty neat and eye-opening experience. One thing I found out is they have a much higher success rate at releasing them to the wild. A lot of times pheasant survival rate is really not that high, and obviously the more you handle them, the more they become domesticated, kind of take the wild out of them. That's a big part of the reason you see a lot of those pheasant farms where they raise pheasants to release into the wild are generally just a lot of acreage and these fences, and they try to handle these birds as little as possible. Well, apparently this variety of pheasant have a very good high success rate of survival. The other thing is the area that we live is prime time for them. They really like a 60 to 70% like farmland type environment, cornfields, soybean fields, hay fields, and then the other percentage woods and cattails. So that's exactly what we got going on right around here. So perfect environment for them, really good survival rate. I also got into digging a little bit, trying to figure out where this bird came from. We know pretty much all the neighbors within about a 2-mile radius of our place. Not a lot of neighbors out here, but there are some that do raise and release pheasants. So I got talking with some of them. None of them said we've ever released a black pheasant. So I got talking with someone else that has worked or helped out with releasing some pheasants for the Minnesota DNR. And he said, yeah, about 5 or 7 per 100 pheasants they release are these black pheasants. I think it's because they come out of this pheasant farm out of Iowa or something to that effect. And they do get released out there. So I thought that was a pretty neat little thing coming across this bird. So this pheasant's been hanging around here a little bit. About a week or two ago, my wife sent me a message and said, hey, this pheasant's back. And it was headed towards the chicken run. Well, sure enough, this pheasant actually ended up jumping into our chicken coop run And our chickens weren't really too happy about this thing. They scared that thing off, and my wife's like, "Oh, the thing's so lonely," and it had disappeared for about a week, and then it started showing up again. It's been really a pretty fun thing to watch and see. So we've done pheasant and quail in the past and have released those. It's been a couple years now, and I think at some point I'd like to get back into doing some pheasant again, and I think I'm going to take a much closer look at this melanistic mutant variety of pheasant. It's really a very pretty bird, and I like the idea of it having a little bit of a higher success rate being released into the wild and adapting and growing from there. The only downside is it's a little bit harder to identify come hunting season or something like that. So if you're someone that's into pheasants, have you raised any of these ever before, released any of these? I know they do sell them at some hatcheries, but definitely not something as common as like a normal ring-necked pheasant. So just want to share this with you guys. Maybe it's an option if you are someone that raises pheasants. It might be something worth looking into. If you're out hunting and end up coming across these, at least you'll be a little bit aware. I'm not quite sure if it's legal to take in all states, but at least according to Minnesota DNR here, you can harvest those during the normal hunting season. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.